Got it.
Like how I just ninja'd you guys.
Hey, Alice.
Yeah, entertain Alice while I set this thing up correctly.
Yeah.
It's that time of the month again. And by that time of the month, I mean book club. It's gonna be easier for me to do on the computer, actually. We will be with you shortly, Alice. Thank you for your patience.
I need to shave. I need to shave right before No Shave November.
True.
And then shave every single day in November to protest No Shave November.
I need to nut every day before No Nut November, and then continue to nut every day through November
In protest.
in protest of No Nut November.
Yes,
Stupid holiday.
It is. That sounds like something a woman would come up with.
I don't know, Phil.
What man wants to go an entire month
Without nutting.
Living.
living?
What man wants to continue on? Period.
How many roads must a man walk down?
Nice. Our first Hitchhiker's Guide reference. Good job, Phil.
Yeah, I contributed.
I thought that was a Bob Dylan reference.
And
Alex,
yeah, what's up?
you gotta nut 42 times.
Yeah,
That's exactly it right there.
that's how you reach true understanding.
Yeah.
That's
It has to be on November. No, November is just keeping us from the truth to reality and everything.
It's supposed to
yeah,
be
maybe in the sequel. Remember how they were trying to get Arthur
42
to come
nut
up with the
November.
question? They're trying to get Arthur to come up with the question. That's how they're going to get the mice are going to get him to do it. Is they're going to jerk him off 42 times.
Oh, God, give him post nut clarity for the rest of his life.
And then he'll achieve the question, the ultimate question.
I feel like that's
Those are my sequel predictions.
pretty legit.
Yo.
What's up, y'all?
What's up?
Howdy.
I'm just putting the final touches on right now. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's get this party started. Hello, Alice. Welcome to the time of the month that it is. It's book club time again, and we're going to talk about The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. Mine's illustrated by Chris Riddle. Chris Riddle actually did a book series called The Edge Chronicles. He did all the art for that. That was a children's book series I read growing up. So when I saw that he did the illustrations for this. I was like, oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, so Alice, we got Neef, we got David, we got Hyatt, Liz, and we got Phil. So yeah, I'm gonna just find this part in here I was thinking of. Do you guys have a favorite part?
Favorite part.
That's hard to say. I'm so used to all of them because when I first read it, I read all of them straight through, and so a lot of it kind of blended up. And I think my favorite parts of the book are the narration of the guide itself.
Yeah,
You know?
like yeah. It's so sassy.
Yeah, it's just so matter of fact.
And so many of the entries are written by like complete vagabonds that like, you don't want to know what the best drink in the universe is. You gotta mix this thing and this thing. And it's like there's a lot of trivia, not a lot of like useful information.
Yeah. You have all that trivia and stuff, but like Earth only has that one sentence.
Oh yeah.
Mostly harmless.
Yeah. I'm having trouble finding it, but my favorite part is when they're above, I think it's Margarathia, and it's when the missiles, the voicemail comes on. It's like, no one's home, leave a message after the beep, and they keep going into it, and then they fire, here's some complimentary missiles for you. And then they use the warp drive and they blip out and blip right back in to the exact same place they were. And when they do, it spawns this giant whale, and you get and a bowl of petunias, and you get this whole whale's monologue of like as it's born, spawned into existence as a fully grown whale, and it falls to the earth. You get its entire monologue. But my favorite part is it cuts to the bowl of petunias, and the bowl of petunias, what's going through its head, and the bowl of petunias' only thought is, oh no, not this again. And the Hitchhiker's Guide is like, and if we knew what it meant by that, we would have a greater understanding of the universe. And I fucking love that. It's so good. There's some. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, I had to kind of flip through this to remember, because I've, like Neve, I've read the whole series back a long time ago, and I had to flip through this to remember what went with what.
Yeah, it's like the funniest book I've ever read, I would say, without a doubt. Like, I can't think of anything else this funny that I've read.
It's funny on its own without the story even being funny. It's like a funny story, but it's also told to you so funny, or so unlike any other comedy is done, that it's almost written like a biography, somebody's autobiography, like the Hitchhiker's Guide is telling you about itself.
Yeah.
You know, but then it jumps in and out. That's what I think is really amazing. When the film came out, like most things that are based around a book, I was real worried about it. And they actually did a really good job, but I think one of the things they dropped the ball on was that they didn't indulge enough in the narration. The beginning of the film jumps in and they break out and talk about the guide a little more. But I'm sure it was for time and content, you know, because you could do a whole couple of hours just on the narrations, you know.
Yeah, like there's so much of that that's like not even connected to the story at all, just little snippets. And it makes sense if you take into account like the history, because this wasn't a novel first. I believe it was radio plays. So they would do these episodes over the radio, and they would just be little snippets of it, and then later he put it together as a novel. So that to me makes
that
sense.
totally makes sense.
Yeah. And so it's like each one, you have like, I think there's the first book is the first 4 episodes, I believe. And then and then there's a bunch more. Yeah, it but each one does kind of feel like a little segment there, like, which, you know, I guess it's kind of like if you're tuning in to almost like a sitcom show, you don't know like what the fuck's gonna happen.
Yeah, because it was a lot like Futurama on crack.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of Futurama, something I noticed is Zaphod Beeblebrox immediately reminded me of that one character in Futurama.
Doesn't his name start with a Z too?
That Brannigan.
Zap Brannigan.
That
Yeah.
Brannigan.
That dude is Zaphod Beeblebrox. Same dude, except he's only got one head.
You can really see where Groening, was obviously a Hitchhiker Guide fan in that, because it is done such in the same way that it's a sci-fi that is a direct reflection on us without talking about us. The main concept to the opening of the story, that his house is about to be bulldozed because it was basically what we would call eminent domain. I don't know what they're calling it in England. And and as he was explaining to the guy, I didn't know anything about this. And he says, well, the forms and everything were filled out properly and they were on record right down there in your office. And if you couldn't be bothered to go down there and keep up with your state policies and things going on, then this is what happens. And that is literally what happens to the Earth.
Yeah.
When they announced to the Earth, well, our interstellar throughway's coming through and the Earth's got to be destroyed. Don't freak out now. It's been on file in your local galactic council office for eons now. If you can't be bothered to go keep up with it, then, well, this is what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, "Oh, it's only 4 light years away."
Yeah.
I always enjoyed the Vogons for just sort of the crushing hand of, bureaucracy and government. Just how, I don't know, how that's portrayed, and that it's supposedly just, an irrefutable fact of the universe that any kind of bureaucracy is going to behave that way, whether it's on the planet or not.
It's the most extreme form, because it's like a bureaucracy strictly for the sake of the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Everything they do, like all the forms they have to fill out. And I remember at one point they explained that, and it's a whole to do about this form to be filled out for this. And it, it reminds you of every government agency you've ever had to deal with.
Yeah, when they describe it, they say the paper gets lost like twice in the process.
Yeah. It's like a Vogon wouldn't save his own grandmother from that giant monster until forms are filled out in triplicate, blah, blah, blah. And then I think it's like, and then eventually lost, found again, recycled, and then buried. So it never actually gets to the point where they'd save them. So I did near the end where they talk about the mice. This picture really is great. But it's talking about how the mice have a body outside this dimension, and they're like, we only see a small fragment of them. And I thought this was really well illustrated.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, cool. I never seen those illustrations.
So you can see like the little tails, what connects it.
Yeah.
And then like on the other end of that's this Cthulhu type shit. It's really cool. Yeah, he added a lot for sure to the story, just with stuff like that. We were talking. You were saying how it's a direct parallel of, or a parody. Of our reality. And I think one of the best examples of that is when they're talking about the galactic presidency and like what that actually entails. And it's like his sole purpose is to point away from the actual power. It's like,
right.
Look over here, guys. And And I love that Douglas Adams did
It's
that.
also known. It's just common knowledge and been that way to the point that people just kind of accept that. You know,
I think that's right.
Well,
Uh,
talking about that, one of my favorite parts is actually it's where those scientists were presenting the heart of gold to the president, and then it says together and between them they had gone to and beyond the furthest limits of physical laws, restructured the fundamental fabric of matter, strained, twisted, and broken the laws of possibility and impossibility. But still, the greatest excitement of all seemed to be to meet a man with an orange sash around his neck.
there's I love how so you have certain stories, right? Like let's say I'm gonna use like Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire for an example, where you feel like you're peeking in to an entire world just because that's how, or like Lord of the Rings, where it's like there's an entire thing that you just have a tiny window into. And then you have stories like this, and there's nothing wrong with this type of storytelling. It has like a lot of comedic value to it. But I feel like I kind of feel like everything you're saying is like the entire universe, and there's like nothing else going on like outside of what you're saying. And I guess what I mean by that is like I can't remember what they're called, but the thing that the species that work for the Vogons on the ship, it's like their whole thing is that they hate the Vogons, and it's very comical. It's like a whole species that's their whole thing is they hate Vogons. And it's like there's so much of that where it's like this universe is like held together with patches, but that's some of the beauty of it. It's like he's just totally does whatever the fuck he wants with it.
Yeah, that it's kind of interesting how, and this is one thing I always liked about this is kind of that point of there's no grand overarching narrative going on in the universe. It's just a bunch of absurd things that bump into each other with randomness, and the Heart of Gold kind of encapsulates that, but it travels by means of that.
Yeah, the improbability drive. It's like I think the way they explain it is it goes into every space in the universe almost simultaneously, and then ends up where you want. But is that right? Can you choose where you want to go, or is it totally random? Can't remember.
I think it's completely improbable.
Okay.
Yeah, the most improbable thing, which is why they get caught by it. Because when they get shot into space or dropped into space off a Vogon ship, it would be completely improbable that anybody be able to survive. And that's kind of the whole joke behind the improbability drive, is that as a storyline, it's the perfect fallback.
Yeah.
It's literally saying what's probably not going to happen. Well, this is going to make that happen, so it can make my story go. And any question of why did this happen? Well, it was completely improbable.
Yeah, the way he like his storytelling is like this like in your face ridiculous, and he just tells you to accept it, and it's a beautiful thing. So one thing I kind of thought kind of confused me, and I guess maybe the mice didn't know, but at the end they single out Arthur as the only survivor of Earth, and I guess maybe they just didn't know about Trillian, but that was weird to me because she has mice, like she has mice.
Oh, the way they describe it in the book is since he was there the last few seconds right when the computation was supposed to end or whatever.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's a little bit of a cop out, but it works.
Yeah, I see now.
She had left way before.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, he met her at a party. and then
his halfway popped in.
Yeah.
Well, she basically that was a really interesting thing, and I really like. He touched in on a lot of humanity on that level, because she asks him, "Hey, why don't we go?" I think she says, "Let's go to Madagascar." And he's like, "Oh well, yeah, that's funny." And she's like, "I'm not joking." And just so happens
Yeah,
this
in the movie.
alien who has a is that only in the film? I
I'm
know in
pretty
the
sure that's only in the film.
I know in the book, or you know what? It actually might be later on. It might be in the second book that they discuss that because it's brought up to where she meets him at a party and they talk and they're hitting it off. But that's literally the reason why she leaves because she's done with it and he's still kind of uptight about everything, even though he doesn't realize that here in the next few days he's going to have to just hop up and go anyway.
Yeah.
So it puts a real interesting he manages to take two humans, put them out there, and then still surrounded by aliens that are still reflecting humanity in all their weird different ways. And taking two humans that are kind of very base level, the very simple base level of human.
Yeah. They could be the next Adam and Eve for Earth 2 or something. The oh fuck, what was I gonna say? The so yeah, I just watched the movie this morning. And something I liked about it wasn't necessarily like the most accurate to the book, but like thematically, it like really captured what Hitchhiker's Guide is. It's like it may not have like done every single story element and it added some new ones in, but everything it did felt like Douglas Adams. Like it was very in the soul of Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah, they managed to visually do a lot of things. I was really shocked with it. What they managed to pull off. There's actually a BBC series that was done years and years ago. That's actually really well done, even though it's BBC. It's very low grade. And it's pretty much the full story.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I've
it's
seen
really
that.
it's really not bad.
You said you've seen it too, Hyatt?
Long time ago.
That's cool. I'll have to check that out. They did something else like that, like gave it a BBC series.
They've done radio shows of it. BBC has done the radio has done a lot of radio. They call them what is it? Radio, not radio play. They might be radio plays, or they call them something like that. But they do different books. You can find done as a scripted play.
I think in the movie the casting was really good too. Like Alan Rickman's the GOAT. Like you can't get a better Marvin than Alan Rickman.
Yeah. Yeah, he was great in that.
He's so good. And like at the end of the movie, there's like a gun that's not in the book at all. But like, oh wait, was it? No, it wasn't. And he has this gun that like it whatever your will is, you can shoot your will at someone else and they'll have to agree with you.
I think that is in the book.
No, what they did in the book was Marvin is talking to a computer and
Yeah, he makes it commit suicide.
yeah. They're like, what happened? He was like, I was just telling it how I look at the world. And they're like, and it's like it killed itself. But in the movie, the Vogons hunt him down and he takes a gun and zaps all the Vogons and all the Vogons just give up. They're like, okay, what's the point? The also I guess we should talk about 42 and that whole thing because that's probably one of the most besides like keep calm, carry a towel. 42 is probably one of the most recognizable things to come out of that.
Yeah.
And so basically there's this commission to build a computer to have a simple answer to the universe and life and everything, specifically all three of those things.
Yeah, life, the universe, and everything, which is the title of, I think, the third book.
Oh, okay.
That's why I'm saying some of the stuff that was in the film may be from the other books.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think that the perspective gun may be in another one.
It might
Oh,
be.
okay. Cool.
So, but anyway, yeah, it's you're saying 42. The
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a commission to have a computer answer give a simple answer to the
Life-
universe, life, and everything.
everything.
And they build this computer, and it's like, okay, come back in 7.5 million years. So then they do, and the answer is 42, which is a huge disappointment to everyone.
Right.
I love how it prefaces it by like, don't you want me to tell you something else? You're not gonna like the answer,
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
but this is what it is.
yeah. And
They find that they never knew what the question really was.
yeah, it's like you don't understand the question, which is actually kind of fucking deep, right?
Yeah.
It's like you seek an answer to life, the universe, and everything, but what answer would be acceptable to you?
Right. The meaning of everything. What the hell does that even mean?
Yeah, that's not a question at all.
Right.
Unless it is, and I'm just not a supercomputer.
Well, if I remember correctly, wasn't it like almost like a cop out that the mice said that it was kind of a cop out that they decided to
Oh, that's so
or
this
was that
computer,
after?
yeah, so the computer, they're like, okay, well, what's the question then? And it's like, well, I don't know, I'm not smart enough to answer the question or to give you the question, but I'm going to build a computer that will eventually answer this question for you, and that computer is Earth.
Yep.
And and then Earth gets blown up 5 minutes before the computer is done processing, and yeah, the Vogons just blew it up 5 minutes before. So instead of, and the mice commissioned had to have the Earth built. The Earth was artificial for the purpose of mice. So so they didn't want to go through all that trouble again. So instead, they were going to do a cop out. Just be like, okay, well, we'll just give them something that sounds good.
That's right. Yeah. That was
And- And they what they end up going with was how did it go?
How many roads does a man walk down?
Yeah, how many roads must a man walk down?
Yeah, which is fucking great.
42.
Yeah. That's like some ancient proverb. Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested to read the other ones now too. Because that wasn't like, it was something like 200 something pages, but like it's such an easy read.
Yeah.
Just fly through it.
I was fortunate enough to be, or I was let borrow a big, huge copy with all of them in it.
Nice.
And it actually had I think it had 6 stories. It had the 4 main ones. There's a sub short story he did that's based, I think, on Zaphoid. And then the 6th one is the one his son wrote. If I remember correctly.
But the 6th one was what? Say that again.
One that his son wrote.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think I've read that one.
But as far as I always used to say it's a 4-book trilogy.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you guys that read ahead with the other books, do they ever actually complete Earth 2?
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah, because a lot of the events of the other books have to do with Earth too.
Thanks
Okay.
for calling it.
Find that out
Just kidding.
immediately.
No, because at the end of this book, it sounded like they were like gonna scrap it because they decided, oh, we're just gonna cop out and do this, the road thing. So I wasn't sure if they were gonna complete it or not.
Well, that's the thing is that's what I'm saying. In the film, they show the new Earth getting built, but I think that's not until the second book.
Where it's completed, yeah.
Yeah, because the second book, and then when you get into like the third book, it's kind of a trip because it's like, if I'm remembering correctly, I think that's when it's Arthur really kind of going out and just kind of doing other stuff. It's kind of crazy. There's one that seems to go on a tangent with something else that's not based around him for a while. The other ones, they kind of get out there.
Yeah.
You know, they're really good reads. They all read the way the first one did. You just ride right through them. It was one of the easiest books I ever read as far as, being able to stay interested,
Yeah.
because it's not simple. You kind of got to know a little bit of philosophy and have your eyes open a little wide to really pick up on the humor of it. It's very, very intellectually humorous.
So, Hitchhiker's Guide was originally written in 79, which is not as old as I actually thought it was. But listen how beautifully this aged. This is chapter 12, page 127.
Okay.
For years, radios had been operated by means of pressing buttons and turning dials. Then, as the technology became more sophisticated, the controls were made touch sensitive. You merely had to brush the panels with your fingers. Now all you had to do was wave your hand in the general direction of the components and hope. It saved a lot of muscular expenditure, of course, but meant that you had to sit infuriatingly still if you wanted to keep listening to the same program.
Yeah. Or like the Hitchhiker's Guide is a Kindle, right?
Oh, true. Yeah, it's like some kind of smartphone or something.
Yeah.
Or a Kindle, yeah, exactly like a Kindle, actually. Or one of those yeah, the other knockoff Kindle, Amazon's Kindle, right? Someone else has one too. iPad, yeah, we'll go with that.
Oh, Kindle.
Oh, here's that part with the bowl of petunias. Curiously enough, the only thing that went through the bowl of petunias the mind of the bowl of petunias as it fell was, oh no, not again. Many have speculated that if we knew exactly why the bowl of petunias had thought that, we would know a lot more about the nature of the universe than we do now. That's probably the most beautiful part of the whole book to me. It's like, what the fuck?
What did you guys think of the Babel fish?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
The whole concept of it feeding off of thoughts or brain wave is just really.
I couldn't get it past going into your ear. Like
It is a free
So
thought.
big.
It reminded me of Star Trek.
Yeah.
The Star Trek Wrath of Khan movie with the ear slugs.
This was before. Yeah, this was before Wrath of Khan. This came out before.
I guess it was.
Oh shit. That's funny. Yeah, this thing, I mean, there's no telling how much this inspired. It's like so groundbreaking.
Yeah.
What were we just talking about?
Oh, I mean, I brought up the Babel fish because it's
Oh,
kind of,
yeah.
I like how it's kind of like it worked as a reverse of the Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
Like, everyone,
Yeah.
because in the Bible it said, oh, everyone had the same language, so they all worked together. But in here it says the Babel fish actually led to more wars than like anything else.
Oh shit! I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I think the actual, okay, I found the line. It says, meanwhile, the poor Babel fish, by effectively removing all barriers to communication between different races and cultures, has caused more and bloodier wars than anything else in the history of creation.
Damn, that's so dark. I didn't pick up on that being a. I picked up on the Babel for Tower of Babel, like the wordplay there, but I didn't pick up on the complete duality of the Tower of Babel. That's beautiful, because Alice, if you don't know, Tower of Babel stories like they get separated, like language is divided. Now they can't work together. That's awesome. I remember too at that part, they go into pretty good detail about how it operates in the Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah, it says it feeds on the on brainwaves.
I think it specifically says it's not feeding on your brainwaves, it's feeding off of the people around you. Can you see if you can find that, David?
Yes, I think because when people are speaking, that's what it's feeding on, and it's basically excreting the translation.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
That's, I mean, another point of that is everything that it's everything that he puts in this story has a science basis, even if it doesn't make any sense in science. He makes it make, like, you know, he makes it out as if it just makes sense.
Yeah, kind of like the Columbus and Rick and Morty. The Plumbus, remember how they did a How It's Made parody, and it shows like first the Plumbus is greased, and it's like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
What does that do? I can't fight the part with the Babel fish, but here's the part with the towel. So towels are really important to the Hitchhiker's Guide series. It's
number one rule: always have a towel.
Yeah. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy has a few things to say on the subject of towels. A towel, it says, is about the most massively useful thing an interstellar hitchhiker can have. Partly, it has great practical value. You can wrap it around you for warmth as you bound across the cold moons of Jaglin Beta. You can lie on it in the brilliant marble sanded beaches of Santragonus 5, inhaling the heady sea vapors. You can sleep under it beneath the stars, which shine so redly on the desert world of Kakrafoon. Use it to sail a mini raft down the slow, heavy river of Moth. Wet it for use in hand-to-hand combat. Wrap it around your head to ward off noxious fumes or avoid the gaze of the ravenous bug-bladdered beast of Trawl. A mind-bugglingly stupid animal, it assumes that if you can't see it, it can't see you.
I remember there was something about wrapping it around your head.
My favorite part of that is wet it for hand-to-hand combat.
Me too.
Ford uses it as a weapon in the movie when they come after it when the they're coming through and he's like running through slapping him with the towel.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Yeah, I think that in the film he drapes it over his head to hide at one point to make reference. I think they tried to make, you know, instead of narrating out of the book, they tried to make reference. I mean, the film is really one of those things, if you never read the book, a lot of it would fly past you because they couldn't, I guess they just didn't spend that much time on the narration aspect.
To be fair, if I was watching a movie, I wouldn't want somebody to be reading the book to me.
Right. Well, the way they did it in the film, it started off real good because it would break away and kind of go into these little instructional style videos. And I mean, I can understand they don't want to just overfill it with that. You're paying actors a whole lot of money, so you got to put them on.
The movie stories seem to be a lot about Arthur and Trillion's relationship too. Like they put a lot of that stuff in there. So
yeah, and it's one of the things I think it goes further, and he ends up having a relationship with somebody else in one of the books later on.
An alien?
I'm trying to remember, but it's way more in depth and way more part of the story. You know what I mean? And that's why I think they borrowed a lot from the other books for that, because they probably assumed they weren't going to be able to make each movie.
Yeah, because you don't really get the relationship in the book.
Right. But it
Okay.
touches on it, and you can kind of understand what's going on. But yet, I think because in the first book they don't draw into his character so deeply, and they're trying to do that so much more in the later books. Really get more in our author of who he is.
Arthur's a really great main character to me in the book and the movie, because he reminds me of Jerry from Rick and Morty. Like, he's just a complete stick in the mud. He's just there. But like, that's perfect for what's happening, you know. He's just the like straight man in all these wacky scenarios.
Yeah.
Kind of funny that I thought of is just now is that in this, Arthur's character is a little bit like Bilbo Baggins in Lord of the Hobbit, where he's the guy who just can't really break out of his own life to go on the adventure, and they're both played by Martin Freeman. Because I think of him as like, he does those sort of quintessentially, you know, reserved English sort of repressed characters, and both of these characters, Arthur and Bilbo, are the same. They're kind of like your quintessential English everyman.
Totally, dude.
That the hero that didn't want to be the hero.
Yeah.
You know.
The comparison between Bilbo and Arthur is like staggering. And then when you bring out that they're both Martin Freeman, it's like, holy shit, you're right.
Yeah.
That's like some perfect casting.
Yeah, it's weird. That hadn't occurred to me until just now.
He did a really good Watson too. Have you guys seen that in Sherlock?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Which is just kind of the same character, really.
Yeah, totally.
So this is another one of my favorite parts. It's on the Vogan ship right before they're about to do the like warp jump. It's actually where the Babelfish is too. He tossed over the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and then curled himself up into a fetal. Is that
fetal?
There's an O in it though. Is that the alternate spelling of fetal? That's weird.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, the more you know. Prepare himself for the jump. At that moment, the bottom fell out of Arthur's mind. His eyes turned inside out. His feet began to leak out of the top of his head. The room folded flat around him, spun around, shifted out of existence, and left him sliding into his own navel. That is so visceral.
Yeah, that really is.
I can just keep reading that. It's so what? Like, I love shit like that. And this actually, and this bleeds right into the Babelfish thing too. So, the Babelfish, said the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, is a small, yellow, and leech-like, and probably the oddest thing in the universe. It feeds on brainwave energy received not from its own carrier, but from those around it. It absorbs all unconscious mental frequencies from this brainwave energy to nourish itself with. It then excretes into the mind of its carrier a telepathic matrix formed by combining the conscious thought frequencies with nerve signals picked up from the speech centers of the brain, which has supplied them. The practical upshot of all this is that if you stick a Babelfish in your ear, you can instantly understand anything said to you in any form of language. The speech pattern you actually hear decode the brainwave matrix, which has been fed into your brain by your Babelfish. That's really elaborate. Like,
So I'm saying his science, even though like there's no real science backing that, it sounds legit. It sounds like, if you almost couldn't prove that that's it's like, oh, is that bullshit? We'll prove
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like an article out of National Geographic.
it. Right.
Right.
Shit,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah,
if
it sounds legit.
you don't know, you've never had a Babel fish.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
do you know, man? He talks about them completely right here.
A thing that I found funny about it, and it should be further ahead from where you're at, is
Mhm.
when they talk about how, oh, the fact that it works so perfectly well and so specific must mean that this is complete evidence. And I thought it was going to be, oh, evidence of God, but they just turn it around and say, no, it's evidence against God
Yeah.
because it's so
Yeah.
obvious.
Because
Yeah.
it's because it proves that God exists, and therefore because
Because you have to have faith.
Somebody-
without faith, God is nothing, and if you take away faith, then God doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Can we
got,
call that?
I got it here actually. Now it is such a bizarrely improbable coincidence that anything so mind-bogglingly useful could have evolved purely by chance that some thinkers have chosen to see it as a final and clinching proof of the non-existence of God. The argument goes something like this. I refuse to prove that I exist, says God, for proof denies faith, and without faith I am nothing. But, says man, the Babel fish is a dead giveaway, isn't it? It could not have evolved by chance. It proves you exist, and therefore, by your own arguments, you don't. QED. Oh dear, says God, I hadn't thought of that, and promptly vanishes in a puff of water. Oh, that was easy, says man, and for an encore goes on to prove that black is white and gets himself killed on the next zebra crossing. Most leading theologians claim that this argument is a load of dingo's kidneys, but that didn't stop Ulan Khalifid from making a small fortune when he used it as the center theme of his best-selling book.
Yep.
Well, that about wraps it up for God. This is
I love
fucking
the-
brilliant.
I love the listing of that dude's books. It's like, who is this God guy anyway?
Yeah, where God went wrong, some more of God's
Yeah.
mistakes. And
Yeah.
who is this God guy anyway?
Who's this guy anyway? So good.
Well, talking about philosophers like him, it's also funny how in their universe or with the mice people or whatever, AI, we're going to take the job of philosophers, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was probably my favorite part of the book.
Yeah, wait, where is that?
That's like
That's
Like way
chapter
towards the
32, I think.
Oh, and at the end of at the end of the warp jump, Arthur lets out a low groan. He was horrified to discover that the kick through hyperspace hadn't killed him.
Another funny part for me was okay, you guys heard that thing where they say if you put a monkey on a typewriter and you have like an infinite amount of time, it would eventually make Hamlet.
Yeah.
That I like how they incorporated that when they use the improbable time jump thing.
Probability, you know?
Yeah. Like there's a bunch of like little monkeys trying to show them their transcript for it or something.
right.
Yeah. It's like it plays with probability as like a toy. It's like, is that unlikely? Oh, then well, here it goes. I love how it also crosses the barrier of like things you would consider impossible, but no, they're just actually extremely unlikely. Like that a whale would just spawn into existence in the middle of the sky.
It's not possibility, it's probability.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that whole part with the whale is great. and then it just slams into the ground, and it's like, oh, maybe the ground will be my friend.
Yeah, that was my favorite part of the movie. His narration of the whale's thoughts was just, just who am I? How did I get here? What is this thing whooshing past me? I think I'll call it wind. Like, wind sounds good. Yeah, it's fucking beautiful.
And talking about the infinite, another cool part was where Arthur is taken into that room, like that giant ass room that's like all white, where they make the planets, and like how they say infinite is just something flat, like the little infinite sign or whatever. By seeing this room, like he felt infinite.
Yeah, he was talking about how actual infinity, like you can't quite wrap your head around, but knowing that this is finite makes it feel more infinite. It's
Yeah.
like knowing that there are boundaries here, but I can't fucking see them. Like that's so unimaginably large. That's a big room.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if you can make a whole planet in it, it's like, wow.
Oh, and the doors on the ship.
The sign.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's actually they if I remember in the book they describe how some corp company or whatever had introduced more, I can't remember what term they used, but more empathetic stuff. So pretty much all doorways and elevators and shit like that all had speech. I'm so happy to let you through here now. And they weren't, and it just got ridiculous to the point where
There's
they
a
were,
whole concept of,
complimenting you.
yeah, there's a whole concept about AI having artificial personalities, and Marvin was a prototype that they didn't quite get right. And then so then you get the doors and the computer system itself that runs the ship, and they're just like so overly pleasant. Like
Yeah.
Zaphod keeps yelling at him because he's like, shut the fuck up and do what I want you to do. Like, it's like, oh, I'd love to get around to that for you, bud. Let me just pull it up.
Like how Arthur essentially shut down the computer for some extended period of time, trying to get it to make him tea.
Yeah. Very British of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's kind of a moment like that too in the movie when there's like that whole display of food that the mice lay out for him.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're like Ford's just like chowing down. He's like, Arthur, you have to try this. And Arthur just takes a little bit of the sip of the tea and he's like, oh, that is divine. And he's like sits down. That's all he needed. Well, y'all, I think that was Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah.
Wait, we didn't even bring up the don't panic thing.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it. Just that one line.
Oh yeah, don't panic.
One of the best pieces of advice in the world, and it's supposedly inscribed right on the back of the Hitchhiker's Guide to remind you always, don't panic.
Yeah, that is good advice, actually. Oh yeah. It's right here.
Yeah.
That's that is, I mean, on a real note, that is really good advice for any situation. And it's like whatever you're going through in life, just breathe and carry a towel too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it said a lot about the sort of the view of the universe in this book, that presumably the guide would be one of the first things that you come across, if you're introduced into the world, and sort of it assumes probably correctly that your first impulse on, being exposed to the full extent of the universe is to panic.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you do in the face of all that? I guess you can try not to. Just try and be chill. I mean, Ford seems like he's pretty chill about it in the face of everything. In the face of everything, in fact, he's maybe a little too chill, because there are parts where they're facing certain death, and like there's no way they could have gotten out of it normally except through divine intervention. But like he's just totally chill about it. Arthur's like, "Are we about to die?" He's like, "Yeah."
Well,
You want
because Ford is a hitchhiker. Isn't he on one of the writers for the guide?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he's like, you know,
He's
the
a veteran.
resemblant. Yeah, he's a resemblant of that guide. You know, he's pretty much
Yeah.
personified. He's the guide personified. So you know, he can't panic ever.
Yeah. That's good. I didn't think about that as like him as the guide, and that is true. I wonder how many of the entries are written by him. Actually, does it talk about that?
I don't.
Which entries are his and which ones aren't?
I don't think it really does. And I want to say, as it gets further into the other books, I can't remember how much it touches on the guide.
I mean, the Earth one was his.
Oh, okay.
Mostly harmless was his.
Yeah, I think he modified it. I think it said harmless before, and he added the word mostly.
Yeah. Ugh. Well, that was a blast.
Yeah.
I think next month, Alice, I didn't get a copy. I should have. So I think we're gonna do the Hellbound Heart, the Clive Barker book that led to the Hellraiser franchise. There's a new Hellraiser reboot out. It's actually pretty good. I liked it.
Is it a reboot
Yeah.
Yeah.
of the first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's the same elements that make up Hellraiser. It's not like the same story necessarily.
Ah,
I mean, there's really only so much you can do with that plot, but like,
right.
it's just a retelling of it, I guess.
Hellraiser in 2022.
Yeah, I think we watched it before and I fell asleep, but I went back and watched the rest of it. Did you finish it?
No, it was terrible up until the point where I fell asleep.
I like the ending. I like the resolution to it. Well,
yeah.
Anyway, y'all, I appreciate y'all being here. It really means a lot to me. I always have a lot of fun with this, and I love you guys. You're all great people. Do you Cassette Stress? Do you guys have any shows coming up?
Yeah, we our next one is November 20th at the East Room.
Nice. You know anything about the bill on that one?
Yeah, so it's a band from out of town and Titans of Siren.
Ooh.
And the band from out of town, hang on one second. I don't know why I'm blanking on their name right now.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that.
They're called Sun Volume. They're from Chicago.
Nice. And you said
20th?
20th.
20th.
Oh, okay. Alice, November 20th at East Room.
Yep.
Check them out. Yeah. Have a great night, guys.
Appreciate
And
it.
we'll see you next week, Alice. Bye.